family is given a choice to either save the world or destroy it. Strap in, movie enthusiasts. It's recap time. Today, we will be unraveling a film called Knock at the Cabin from the year 2023, which follows a mystery that can change the world. I hope you enjoy the video, so let's start. The movie opens in the woods, where we see a girl named Wen collecting grasshoppers in a jar. Wen is a 7-year-old girl who is on vacation with her parents, and they are staying at a cabin in the woods. Wen notices a man approaching her from the woods. The man's name is Leonard, a second-grade teacher and bartender. He greets Wen and introduces himself, stating he wants to make new friends. Wen introduces herself and mentions that she is collecting grasshoppers in the woods. Leonard helps her catch another grasshopper and asks why she is collecting them. Wen says that she wants to become an animal collector, so she likes to study these grasshoppers. She mentions that her daddy Eric taught her to catch grasshoppers. Wen reveals that she has 2 dads, Eric and Andrew, and she calls them by their names to avoid confusion. Eric and Andrew are 2 gay husbands who love each other more than the world, and Wen is their adopted daughter. Eric is more of a nice and soft-spoken person, whereas Andrew is also nice but much more serious and prone to violence. Wen asks Leonard why he's here, so he lies, saying he's here to make friends with her and her dads. Meanwhile, Leonard's associates arrive. His associates include Redmond, a worker at a gas company with anger issues, Sabrina, a post-operative nurse, and Adriani, an enthusiastic line cook working for a Mexican restaurant. Wen notices all of them holding strange weapons, so Leonard reveals they are all here for the most important job in the world. Wen gets alarmed and walks back to her cabin to her dad's, while Leonard keeps on saying that she and her dads are going to have to make tough decisions. Wen rushes into the cabin and alerts her dads. She informs them that they all need to stay inside the house because some scary people have arrived, and they are armed with dangerous weapons. She tells them about Leonard and his most important job. Eric and Andrew take her lightly until Leonard and his gang knock on their door. The dads feel alarmed and walk towards the door before Leonard introduces himself from outside. Leonard requests Eric to open the door because they need their help, but Andrew checks out Leonard from the windows, realizing he might be a threat. The husbands politely refuse to open the door. Leonard states that they need their help because they are trying to save a whole bunch of people. Andrew peeks from the window and notices their weapons. He tries to call the cops, but Adriani has cut the line, and the cell service doesn't work here either. Redmond gets grumpy and threatens to break in, but Andrew says he has a gun, which he doesn't actually have in hand, but it's in their truck. Leonard gives them one last chance to open the door, otherwise they will break in. The family starts locking all the doors and windows to prevent them from entering. Redmond tries to break in from the back while Sabrina makes her way in from the kitchen. Eric attacks her, but Sabrina defends herself and drops Eric, injuring his head. Andrew staves off Sabrina, but Redmond enters the cabin. Andrew fights Redmond and beats him, while Leonard breaks in from the basement and picks up Wen to end the fight. Andrew feels powerless, and the movie flashes back to Eric and Andrew's earlier time of marriage, where they get visited by Andrew's parents. Andrew's mom is quite supportive of him being gay, but his father still hesitates and loathes him for marrying a man. Back in the present, Eric wakes up and finds himself tied to a chair along with his husband. Sabrina tries to mend Eric's injuries while Leonard and the rest clean their cabin. Andrew feels Leonard and his friends have tied them because they are homophobic, but Leonard and Sabrina assure them they aren't. Leonard mentions they weren't even aware of them being a gay couple until they arrived here. Leonard notifies them. They are normal people just like them. And one by one they all introduce themselves, while Redmond slowly runs out of patience. Leonard reveals that the 4 of them are here to prevent the apocalypse. He continues to say that the 3 of them are the only ones who can prevent that from happening. Leonard stops wasting time and spills the truth. He gets on his knees and tells them that they have to choose a person among the 3 of them and sacrifice them. Leonard also points out that they can't choose or sacrifice for them, so Eric, Andrew, and Wen will have to make the decision. Andrew calls them delusional lunatics who need psychological help. He says he doesn't care about the world, and he'd rather watch the world destroy repeatedly than sacrifice anyone from his family. To convince the chosen ones, Leonard discloses that all four of them have seen visions of how the world will end, and they met through these visions. He explains their vision of the apocalypse. First, the cities will drown when the oceans start rising and pound all the buildings and people into the sand, dragging everything out of the sea. Then a terrible plague will descend. Children will writhe with fever, and mucus will fill up their lungs. The skies will fall, and an everlasting darkness will loom over humanity. Leonard tells them the guidelines. Every time they say no, they will execute each one of them, which will unleash all the disasters mentioned. He asks Eric and Andrew if they will sacrifice one of them, but they disagree. Redmond then steps forward in fear and gets on his knees. At the same time, the sun's light reflects on a mirror in front of Eric, and he sees a vision that he doesn't disclose. Redmond wears a white mask, and one by one, Sabrina, Adriani, and Leonard struck Redmond on the head with their weapons. The movie flashes back to the past again, during the time Eric and Andrew went to adopt Wen. Back in the present, Leonard drags Redmond's corpse outside of the house and then turns on the television for news. The news shows that earthquakes have been occurring all around the world, and they're causing massive tsunamis. They show a clip of a massive tidal wave laying waste to hundreds of people on a beach. Leonard gives the dads the entire day to choose again so they can reflect on their choice. Andrew is furious and still disagrees with making any choice or sacrificing anyone. Eric thinks about the day they arrived at this cabin together, where the first thing they all did was swim in the lake. Now, Sabrina properly bandages Eric's head in the washroom. There, she tries to convince him that they aren't religious fanatics. They were shown visions of real events, which are not coincidences, so they need to decide the fate of the world. But Eric still refuses. She brings him out and ties him to his chair again. They all disperse into the cabin while Andrew notifies Eric that the intruders have planned everything. He explains that Leonard repeatedly checks his watch so he can match the timing with the news broadcast. Meanwhile, Wen escapes from the cabin, but Leonard catches her. Andrew then theorizes that they have been targeted because he remembers Redmond. He realizes that he fought Redmond a few years ago, and his name was O'Bannon. So this was all his planning for revenge. Leonard is clueless because none of them knew that much about Redmond. But Leonard was the first one to have these visions, and he was the one who reached out to them. The next morning, after eating breakfast, Wen sneakily hands a knife to Eric's, whereas Andrew's knot got loose overnight. Now, Leonard asks them again if they have decided, but they say no again. This time, Adriani steps forward to get slaughtered. She tells Eric about her little son, Charlie, who is going to perish if they don't choose someone to sacrifice. Andrew and Eric still refuse because how can they choose to murder their loved ones? Whereas Leonard and the rest hardly know themselves. Adriani gets on her knees, wearing the same white mask, and her associates execute her too. They watch the news again, and this time, Leonard's second prediction comes true. A plague spreads in the world, called the X9 virus, which is causing many children to die from the flu. Andrew notices the news shows a pre-recorded program, while Eric confesses his vision. He says he witnessed a person-like figure behind Redmond before his demise. Andrew says it must be an illusion because of his concussion. Andrew continues to berate how Leonard is lying because he has been checking his watch to synchronize the timing of the pre-programmed news with their fake story. Eric signals Wen to distract them, so she starts yelling and screaming in the corner, while Eric cuts his rope and breaks free. Eric picks up their weapon and distracts Leonard and Sabrina, while Andrew frees himself and heads to his car outside. Sabrina follows him and strikes her weapon at Andrew's ankle. Andrew throws sand in her eyes and retrieves his gun from his car. He scares off Sabrina with the gun and walks back into the cabin. He threatens to shoot Leonard, but Sabrina tries to attack him again, so Andrew shoots her in the stomach. We see another flashback when Redmond attacked Andrew, and that's why he got more violent and bought a gun. Back in the cabin, Leonard asks the family again if they have made a decision, but they decline and beg Leonard to end it. Leonard strikes Sabrina's dead corpse and unleashes the next disaster. Andrew checks Redmond's ID card, and indeed, his name is O'Bannon. Andrew points out that Leonard and the rest were actually trying to scam and harm them, so he forcefully locks Leonard in the bathroom. They hear Leonard breaking out of the bathroom, so they check inside again. Leonard hides behind the curtains and attacks them. He gets shot in the arm, but manages to steal their gun from them. Leonard shows them the news again, and this time the sky is falling. The news reports that 700 airplanes have fallen from the sky and thousands of people have passed away. Eric starts to believe, but Andrew still refuses, so Leonard says the same words as the news anchor to prove to Andrew that he had seen it in his vision. Leonard takes them outside so he can ask them the last time. Eric tells Wen to hide in the treehouse, while Leonard takes out his knife. He asks them if they want to save the world by sacrificing one of them, yet they still refuse, so Leonard slits his throat. All the predictions arrive, and the skies start turning dark. Eric now realizes that these 4 intruders were the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Redmond was malice, Adriani was nurturing, Sabrina was healing, and Leonard was guidance. Eric realizes they have to make the sacrifice, and everything they warned about was real. So after a few emotional words, Andrew shoots Eric. Andrew mourns his death, then fetches Wen. He takes Wen and finds Leonard's car. They drive away in that car and stop at the nearest diner, where the news reveals all the apocalyptic disasters, and now they are over. Andrew accepts Leonard's words and finds all of their remnants in their car, which means they were all telling the truth about themselves. The movie ends with Wen and Andrew driving away. I hope you liked the story recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Thank you for being a part of Black's Movie Recaps. If these tales of mystery and intrigue sent shivers down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Black's Movie Recap for more bone-chilling narratives. Stay tuned, and until next time, stay captivated.